The Lincoln-Douglas debates of 1858. So find that on your timeline. So important to note that Abraham Lincoln, not terribly well known at this point. So some of the things he's done at this point, he's had a couple of terms in as the House of Representatives in Illinois, the state legislator. He's had a couple of bids to run for Senate in the past, but has lost. But this is really the point where he becomes more of a household name. So he's going up against Stephen Douglas, aka the Little Giant, extremely well known, the architect of popular sovereignty. So this is going to be an uphill battle for him as well. So he's going to be going for his third term in the Senate. So again, very, very well known persona here. So this is going to be tough. So Abraham Lincoln, is trying to take Douglas's Senate seat. These debates are watched extremely closely because everyone knows about Stephen Douglas and who is this upstart guy that's going to try to knock him down a peg or two. And also just kind of context here that all of these questions about slavery and sectionalism are really coming to a head. And so people are assuming that this is going to be on full display with these particular debates. They are definitely not wrong. And important to note here that senators are not popularly elected yet. That's not going to be until the 17th Amendment in 1913 under the Progressives. So they are going to be voted on by the state legislators of each state. So it may come down to a question of how many Republicans are in the Illinois state legislature and how many Democrats are there in there. So they're going to be having a series of 7 different debates here, one for each congressional district in the state of Illinois. Thousands and thousands of people are coming to these. In some of these cases, you've got over 15,000 people attending these live debates. The format is definitely not what we would associate with debates today, much more lengthy. So this is not the gotcha politics that we are familiar with today of, boiling everything down to these sound bites. So for these, the opener would be an hour. So say it was Mr. Lincoln, he would have an hour to lay out his beliefs and ideas. And then Mr. Douglas would have an hour and a half to rebut that. And then Mr. Lincoln could come back and do a 30-minute rebuttal to that. There's no moderator or anything like that. So quite different from what we see today. Again, the timing is really making this crucial and kind of must-see debates for a lot of people, that everything is kind of coming together. As we talked about in class before, the political party system is a bit of a mess at this time because both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party is really fracturing over these beliefs of sectionalism and slavery. So that's one of the big reasons that people are really flocking to this. Important to note that Lincoln is a newcomer to anti-slavery ideas. Some people might not even call him an abolitionist yet at this point. So prior to 1854, he sees slavery as a pretty minor issue or a minor question. So he is really focusing on the morality question. And so he went into this trying to figure out if he could improve his moral arguments. So looking at that as a moral wrong, not necessarily a political one. He does not believe at this point that, if we were to free the slaves, that they should be politically equal, that they should have social equality with whites. So he's not quite there yet. So something that we'll track a little bit later on in the unit is the changing nature of his beliefs on slavery. So they do change over the course of time. Mr. Douglas, of course, well-known name. He is, really focusing on this political issue, and he's quite disturbed by Mr. Lincoln's belief that you could right a moral wrong using politics. Now, a lot of historians today talk about these series of debates as being kind of the high point, so very advanced in terms of argumentation. And they're not wrong about that, but it should be noted too that this gets nasty as well. There's a lot of insults, there's a lot of sarcasm, even Lincoln is going to be using the N word in the course of these debates, which is a surprise to many. So even though today historians look at this as quite highbrow, and in a lot of ways it is, the arguments that they're making are quite advanced. It's important to note that there was some ugliness going on here as well. The most famous of the seven is the Chicago speech, because this is when Mr. Lincoln utters this famous phrase of a house divided against itself cannot stand. So Lincoln is really using this idea, or his claim here is that the real danger comes from popular sovereignty, this idea that Douglas is famous for. So he is saying that this is the true danger, because now you have states that normally could have come in as free states, and now you're opening those up to slavery. So he's quite concerned about that. Lincoln will lose this election, but he does become better known, and then that's going to put him in the running for the election in 1860. They will both be facing off in the election of 1860, and that election is a bit of a mess, as you can probably anticipate. So we'll take a look at that one a little bit later on.